Hey, good
Hey, what's
morning. Good
going on?
morning, everybody.
How you
How
doing,
you
man?
doing out there? Welcome to the big show, Saturday morning bottom line. How you doing, Mars?
Doing good, man. It's been a long week. Had bad back issues all week, but I feel good today. I'm gonna get it all taken care of, man. It's gonna
Good
be
to
good.
see you.
Yeah,
Good to
you
see
too,
you.
man. How you doing?
I've been okay. It's been a pretty good week. Been a pretty good
That's
week.
good. That's good.
Been
That's good.
got some relaxing in, so I feel pretty good.
That's good.
Ready to
That's
go
good.
today.
What's that?
Ready to go today. Ready
You
to go
ready to
today.
go, man? I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about, man. Things that
So,
that's out there, man. That's you get really frustrating. The
so
world is
you
crazy.
you have not gotten vaccinated, right? Is that correct?
I've been done what now?
Have you gotten vaccinated?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I have not got vaccinated. You're gonna keep throwing that in my face, aren't
No, I'm just asking.
you?
No, I'm not. No, see, this is the thing. See, people are like, "Well, I'm going to feel guilty now that I haven't been vaccinated." And
Oh, see,
there's
I don't
people
feel
that are
guilty.
there's people that are shaming people that they're not vaccinated, and
Yeah.
people are calling each other names because they're not vaccinated. So no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
No, see, I looked at me. I have these conversations a lot with people, and when you get to the point of where they look at my decision and I give them my reasons, and they're like, "Wow, that makes sense." And then when you tell them that doctors do not disagree with me, then they're like, "Well, you can't argue with that." Then I tell them that my science, the science that I'm standing behind, is proven to work also, versus the science of the vaccination, which is still undetermined. You say, okay, well, which way is wrong and which way is right. There is no which way is wrong, which way is right. The only which way is wrong are those that are not doing anything.
Yes.
Those that are not doing anything to make themselves better fit to defend against COVID, and also improving all their underlying condition that they may have. That's the person that's wrong, because they have an opportunity to improve themselves and they're not. So I'm not going to hate on you because you took the shot. If that was best for you to do, fine. That was best for you and your family. For those that don't take it, I understand. Is the ones that comes up. Well, if you're using a political conversation or narrative for your reasoning, you have no credibility with me,
Hmm.
um,
Okay.
because the whole COVID situation has been politicized so much that you have misplaced facts, understanding, and even the scientific makeup of your own body is not even in the conversation anymore. It's all about
Hmm.
politics.
So let me ask you. So then, um, this is what let me first say this. So this is what I disagree with. That people are being irresponsible. So
Hmm.
if you're like you said, if you're using a political reason to not get the vaccination, or you think that there's microchips planted in the fact in order to track you or this and that,
Hmm.
then I would say that you're wacko and you're just not using your common sense. And
Right.
so I don't have a problem with you not taking it. I guess what I do have a problem with is people being irresponsible. So if
Right.
you are not wearing a mask and you are refusing to wear a mask when you go into a store or any public place, you're refusing to get the vaccine, then I kind of got a problem.
Hmm.
Because then you're being irresponsible. But like you
Hmm.
say, if you're trying to take care of yourself in other ways, and you're not going to fault people for wearing masks or not wearing masks,
Yeah.
um, it's all a personal choice. So same with the vaccine. It's a personal choice to get the vaccine, and so I respect that. I respect that.
Because my
I did.
question.
I was able to get it um, pretty early
Yeah.
because of my job, because I have to go into hospitals.
Hmm.
So it was offered to me. So I did that. I'm glad I did. It apparently, according to the data so far, the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines are very effective, according to what they say. And now they're saying that you don't have to wear mask when you go out in the public if you've been fully vaccinated.
Right.
So I gotta admit, for me, that's going to get hard for me to get used to, not putting a mask on, seeing people without masks. I guess my concern is that if you see people with mask on,
Hmm.
then you're going to, in your mind, you're going to say, well, that's somebody that refuses to get the vaccine, or they haven't gotten the vaccine yet. Are they going to be like social pariahs now because they're not getting the vaccine and they have to wear mask?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's kind of a new situation now. And it kind of like hit us all of a sudden, like on Thursday, this dropped, and then on Thursday night we had to have this conversation at church with our church group
Hmm.
about what do we do about this for Sunday?
Yeah.
What are we asking people to do when they come into the building? This and that. So it's kind of, it affects everybody. It affects all businesses, all small businesses,
Yeah.
any organization that meets, schools, everything.
Yeah. Well, I look at this also. This is like on the comical side of it. Is that many people who claimed this was a hoax and didn't agree with it are people are getting vaccinated also. Then you have companies who supported the fact of politicians who say that it wasn't real. Like I use Home Depot as an example. You can't go into Home Depot without your mask. They still ask you to wear your mask. So certain corporations that are still doing that. So that's the part of it that cracks me up, is that you said this wasn't real, but then when it got bad, you had to go through the CDC
Yeah,
guidelines. Now that they're saying the mask is that you could take your mask off, they're still holding to their mask because they know that people have gotten sick within either their own organizations or their own families. So they're kind of cautious because they don't know which way to go. And I know
well,
Walmart, I think, is finally saying you don't have to wear a mask anymore. But if you remember, Walmart was one of the companies that first said you had to wear a mask. They were the first companies that institute. They have the people out front making sure you have your mask on. least where I'm at, I'm in the everything conspiracy theory county down here, so they're like, they were the first ones. So again, if you're politicizing the use of the mask, vaccinations, or COVID-19 in general, you're you're defeating not only yourself but any type of hope for anyone else who are struggling with this conversation.
Hmm.
You're making it hard because you're using politics as a reason for your stance when politics has nothing to do with this. It's nothing to do with um, doing what's good for your life as well as others. And I'll stand by that. You know what I'm saying? I've had many conversations about this. I got to deal with it within my own company. And I'm
Yeah.
not my company, I'm my place of
Where you
work.
work. Yeah.
What's going to happen? Because the language said some of the language and some of the print was saying that we're not authorizing everyone to be vaccinated, and it said the word yet. And so, what happens? Is that going to be a case? But right now, it's like it's not an issue. And we just had a meeting recently that was saying, it's up to you, but you're going to be expected to come back to work, whether you're vaccinated or not. It's up to you. What you do in your personal life is up to you.
Okay. Okay.
So a lot of companies are going to go to that point because what is it about? Making money. So that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to be a roll of the dice.
Mm.
Those that took the vaccination are hoping that it works. Those that didn't take the vaccination are hoping they don't get it. You know what I'm saying? That's where it's
So
at.
this is where we're at. We're kind of in a strange point because I was at the hospital on Thursday, um, and uh, they still go through the whole routine. They will stop you. They will take your temperature. They will ask if you have had any contact with anybody who's had COVID recently. Do you have any symptoms? They will give you one of their masks if you walk in with one of your masks. So for
Mhm.
them, it hasn't changed at all. And then if you're going to be walking into the store, into Drug Mart, like I will be later today, I don't have
Mhm.
to wear a mask at all. I don't have to distance. So it just
Yeah,
feels weird
yeah.
that you have these sort of different policies now for me, I guess. And as we talked beforehand, I guess Biden was on, had some sort of video. I didn't see this, but where he was talking about, get vaccinated or wear a mask, and that's it, period. Kind of doing a hard line.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the president sort of putting his foot down and saying, get vaccinated or continue to wear a mask? That's it. That's as simple as that.
Doesn't bother me at all. But he
Okay.
can't control my life unless he makes it a crime.
Okay.
If he makes it a federal crime that I don't wear my mask, but I wear a mask most of the time. But if I decide not to wear my mask, I look at the crowd. I look at what's going on. I look at where am I at. If I'm in a crowded place, I'm wearing my mask. I don't feel fully confident in how things have been going so far with it anyway. The New York Yankees is a prime example. Fully vaccinated people have gotten COVID multiple times.
Yes.
I know people that I know personally that I'm not sure they're vaccinated or not, but they've gotten COVID 3 times.
Mm.
You
3
know,
times?
3 times. Yeah, I know a person. Yeah, right here in the Dallas area. And the first time he got COVID, they showed that he was negative, but his whole household had it. But it kept showing him negative. And he's a essential worker, so he's
Mm.
out in the public. And so the thing about it is that when he finally got diagnosed or said, tested positive for it, he thought that he was recovering from it, and when he got tested, it said positive. He recovered from it, went back to work. A couple months later, he got it again.
Mm.
It showed negative first, then it showed positive. So, um, like I said, then you go back to the Yankees where you have fully vaccinated people still getting it. Now, this comes down to the point, which one thing you never hear about in the article that I haven't heard yet in the news stories about the Yankees is that because they were diagnosed with COVID, but what were their symptoms like? Were they hospitalized? Were their symptoms really bad? It just say they got COVID.
Yeah.
Because you got COVID, don't mean you may have the symptoms and all the things of COVID. You
Mhm.
may still have a normal life, but you've had no different. Um, than some other infection you may get. But if you're not, if your body's not prepared for, like with a vaccine or a strengthened immune system, if you don't have those things, the virus is going to take control of your body and going to really damage your body. We
Yeah.
don't hear that with the Yankees. We don't know what their cases were like, as far as I understand. I haven't heard anything yet.
The, let
So
me ask you this. So I
that's a
think we'll
trick
get to the point.
conversation.
I do think we'll get to the point where we will require it, where
Yeah,
businesses, as an employee, are going to require it. We already require the flu shot for people. The military, we had
yeah.
to get the flu shot. Even as family members, we were required to get the flu shot because of my pre-existing conditions. They just about forced me to get a flu shot every year, and I didn't want to get a flu shot because it makes me feel bad. I get a reaction to the flu shot. I
Yeah.
think that we're going to have booster shots for COVID. This is my prediction. I think a year from now, people are going to have to get it again, and I think it's going to start being required by different places. If you are a frontline worker, if you work in a healthcare facility, they're going to start requiring it. It just makes sense because
Well, even
they already require the flu shot.
no, that's not exactly true. They don't always require it. They give you the option. If you don't take
Certain
the flu
places
shot,
do.
if
Certain
you don't take
places
the
do.
flu shot, you have to wear a mask. And it's
I,
only during flu season. Nurses are like that.
hmm.
I mean, Cleveland Clinic Hospital's like that. That's one of the biggest medical facilities in the world. And their out there thing is not require it's not a mandate that you have to wear your mask. It's saying that if you don't take the flu shot, you have to wear. I mean, if you don't take the flu shot, you have to wear a mask during flu season.
Okay. Okay.
That's what their policies are. So it depends on now.
Some
You may
places
have a
require you to do it.
no.
I know that for me to go into the
Some may.
hospital and work and to do my volunteer work, they require that get the flu shot. I have to bring in my flu vaccination record every year and say,
Yeah.
look, I have my flu vaccination, and if I don't, they won't let me in the hospital.
Well, you're going into multiple hospitals too, right?
Um, yes.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. That's the difference of your position. I'm talking about a person who works for a company. You just mentioned that employers, businesses may start requiring it. If you're working for a business, it depends on that business's policy. I'm not saying they won't because some companies will, but what I'm saying is it's not going to be like all. I don't want to put it the in general saying that it's going to get to this for all because it's not. It's not going to do that because too many business owners that are for or against. So it's not going to come to that point in our country. I just don't expect that. And when it does come to that point, it's going to be an issue. And like I take that responsibility on my own self too. If a company tells me I can't come into their business because I'm not vaccinated, I'm going to accept that as okay. I'll keep it moving. If I can't fly on a certain airline because I'm not vaccinated, I don't like I said, I'll wear my mask. But if that's the case, that's the case. Um, I'm willing to accept that. We live 14 months with restricted places that we could go and cannot go.
Yes.
It allowed me to realize what was some things that I took as I thought was important and things I didn't think was important.
Hmm.
It
Like
made
what?
me it made me that the I used to always go places. I was always, me and Shirley always doing selfies. We were all over the place, traveling, doing different things.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in the end result, we did a lot of things because that's what we wanted to do. It wasn't that
Okay.
it was all that important that I did it. These
Okay.
14 months allowed me to really look at some things that are important in life. Um,
Hmm.
I do, love family, all those things. And people say, well, if you don't take the shot, you can't get around your families. I said, well, that's not always the case. It depends on how you're taking care of yourself. Like I said, ask a doctor. Ask a doctor. They're going to push the vaccine, but ask a doctor. If you are if your immune system is working at peak performance, are you any different from that person taking the vaccination? Ask your doctor and see what his options are. His answer is going to be. They're not going to disagree with you. Number one, they know for a fact your immune system, but keeping your immune system in peak performance will give you a great chance against any virus or any disease. The vaccine, we're still in question
Hmm. Hmm.
because it hasn't been a year yet. We're still in question. So after a period of time is up, you can have accurate numbers to say, yes, this works. This vaccine is working at its peak, like we expected it to work. We don't know those answers yet.
Yeah.
We don't know those answers that I've asked doctors also is after you've taken the vaccine, how does it have to cause any type of restrictions on the rest of the makeup of your immune system?
Hmm.
We don't know that because we know that vaccine is designated strictly for defeating COVID. It's
Yeah.
not building your entire system. If it was building your entire system better, then yeah, it would be a great thing to have. That's not the case. It's specifically made for COVID 19. So, what
Yes,
happens
it's
for
true.
anything else to get in your body? And not only that, why don't doctors, for a person, say a person has an issue with hypertension, they have a issue with diabetes, and they're coming to get the COVID shot. We all know that when you have a certain health issue, the doctors tell you a certain diets to get on, a certain thing, but they don't really push it like they're pushing the vaccine. Why aren't they pushing these people who have underlying health conditions that put themselves in better shape? Can you imagine back last March when we didn't even when they were arguing whether the virus was real or not? Can you and you know how the media, the news, the government can make people fall in line and become puppets?
Okay.
If they had told people start working on your immune system now. Build it up now. We don't have a vaccine yet. We're working on it. But we encourage you to work on getting your immune system built up for whatever may come down the road. How many people you think would have done it? I think more people would have said, I need to start doing these things because they're telling you this in the media every day. They're telling you this every day, every day, every day.
Well,
And
I
like
have
they're
to
doing with the
push back on
vaccine,
that a little bit. There are
push back.
people who who legitimately, no matter what they do to keep themselves healthy, will be at risk. So I know what my doctor is going to say if I ask him. He's like, well, if my immune system is at peak condition,
Mm.
um, do I need to get the vaccine shot? And they're going to tell me get the vaccine shot because um, they believe
No,
in it, for one.
no, I know they believe
Secondly,
in it.
secondly, there are things that make your immune system, there are conditions like type 1 diabetes that I have that make your immune system naturally weaker than others.
Yeah,
So they they don't want to take that chance with you. They're gonna always recommend that you do that. Um, so people who have had chemotherapy and have cancer, they no matter what you do, you're going to have a weakened immune system. So
totally
there are
agree.
people out there
I totally agree.
who that's legitimate.
I
So
totally
I have
agree
to
with
push
you.
back on that a little bit. So I mean, I guess the greater question here is that I want to know what people out there want to what they think about the new guidelines. Do you think it's time for this? Do you think it's premature? Do you think how do you feel about this? How do you feel about are we going to see people that are going to be shamed because they are still wearing masks because they haven't taken the vaccine? Um, what what are some of the comments that we have out there going on? Joe Elder says, do you think a company looks at the cost of cleaning supplies to sanitize the workplace as a factor to make people get the vaccine so they can cut costs? I don't know about that. I hope not. I mean, you would think that the cost of cleaning the office, cleaning the work area would be negligible compared to all the other things that a company has for overhead. Um, I mean, they have moderately decided to some places to clean better, to clean more often, to be
Yeah.
careful about these things. But I don't know how much that is taken seriously now. Like a year ago, that was taken very, very seriously. They were talking about cleaning surfaces every day. They're talking about cleaning where people sit. They're talking about all this, cleaning bathrooms like every hour. I'm not sure that that's still going on as far as like they're very cognizant of cleaning anymore because it's been proven that coronavirus was what did not stick around on surfaces for very long. So I'm not sure how much companies spending on cleaning is a factor in all of this. Um, but I
It
mean,
is
it
a
could
lot
be,
though.
it
It
could
is
be,
a lot though. It is a
it's
lot though,
possible.
because they gotta hire extra people to do what the other people that be for those that aren't doing this, that were doing their regular job, but whoever's over housekeeping or
Hmm.
maintenance or
Okay.
whatever. You got to put extra people in place because think about it. You have to go behind. You can. I was at this restaurant. It's called Legacy Hall here. It's like a big luxurious food court.
Okay.
They have workers watching for when you're finished eating, so they can immediately come and sanitize your area.
Still?
Yes,
Okay.
this was like 2 weeks. What 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago. So if it's lightened up since the mandate that was dropped, I don't know. But this was like less than a month ago. I went 2 weeks in a row, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of people. Like, I need to get out of here. But we like you could be looking for a table and you see a worker like, hey, I need this cleaned up. They're like spraying it down. But I've seen it to where people get up from their table, and I'm like, where did the lady come from? She like came out from behind the wall or something and just started. I mean, it's like appeared out of the blue. I'm like, where did she come from? But yeah,
Wow.
it's like weird, man. But yeah, but
So you
that's
want
what
to
they were
know?
doing. That's an extra expense.
Okay. Um, Jeff mentions the shortstop for the Yankees. Um, I got to admit that I haven't paid a lot of attention to baseball so far this year. So um, the story about the Yankees, I don't know very much about. But yeah, people are still getting it with asymptomatically, and that was my question. It's like, well, I was vaccinated pretty
Sorry.
early in the process, but I was still cognizant of wearing my mask because I didn't know if I was could transmit the disease asymptomatically. Okay, so I got the vaccine, so it means that I probably won't get sick or I probably won't be too sick because of this. But could I still get it and not know it,
Yeah,
not be asymptomatic and spread it to somebody else who might have a harder time with it? So
yeah.
um, that's why I was still wearing my mask everywhere I went. I'd still put on my mask. So I don't know. It's going to be for me. It's going to be hard to I'd feel naked without that mask sometimes if I'm out in public. So
If that vaccine kept you from getting the virus, if it was proven that you would not get the virus because of the hey, what's going on, John Starr? How you doing, man? If you could not get the vaccine, if you got the vaccine and they say that you could not get the virus, I think more people would have gotten the vaccine by now.
I think that's been proven to be the case that uh, the the cases to which being vaccinated and getting COVID-19 are still pretty rare, statistically speaking. So
It's a lot of people still haven't gotten it either. Period. So what I'm saying is that there's still no the comparison. Like people who've never gotten the virus versus saying you get the vaccine and you can't get it, you won't get it again. But
uh-huh.
there's already you got a whole baseball team that's been passing it back and forth with each other. That's a prime example of what I'm talking about. They're
Mm.
fully vaccinated. Some people are fully vaccinated and they've gotten it multiple times. So, and
That's
that's
that. I mean, that's why I was like, well, you still got to be careful
right,
until we
right. I
reach the
agree.
point where it's the so-called herd immunity, which I don't know if we'll ever get to, but until we reach that point where COVID's not as big of a deal because it's lessened in the severity
Yeah,
of the infection, or it's so prevalent that people build up immunities to it.
yeah,
Until we get to that point, we still got to be careful. So
yeah.
it's a slow process, I think, even though we have been blessed with being able to take off the mask. I think that some people are um, gonna get out there in a hurry. I don't know. Some people are gonna be willing to just go for it and get out there. Who knows? We'll see.
You know what's kind of another comical thing about this, man? Um, Soon as the mask mandate happened, the mask mandate was lifted for vaccinated people,
Yep, that was just Thursday.
the gas prices are high. Some places don't have gas. So those same
Well,
people
I think
who
that has to do with the hack that happened on the pipeline.
I know,
So
I know that, but it's just kind of, it's the coincidence of the
it's
timing of
always
both.
something. It's always something.
So it looks like those that were vaccinated and saying, I can finally get out and go. Some of them, are in a city where you can't get gas, or the gas price is so high they have to conserve their gas, so they still can't go anywhere or go where they want to go. And it's just laughable to me because I'm like, this is ridiculous. I say,
Well,
because
that's pretty. Are the gas prices elevated where you live?
they elevated a little bit because we were like two. I think they went up right after Biden came in office, which was politicized. As soon as he went in office, it jumped like 20 cents, I think. Because we were like below like 220 a gallon. Then he gets in the office, or election is when after he won the election, or said he won the election, price went up to like 230 something.
Okay.
Now I said like two. I got gas yesterday or the day before yesterday. It was 249, 250, somewhere around there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I know some cities are up to like 285, 290. Mainly East Coast. It's only like a couple. Man, a lot of East Coast cities along the coast are like South Carolina, I think Georgia. They're up to
Yeah.
almost $3 a gallon.
Yeah.
You know.
So if you're out there, let us know what the prices are like where you live. If
Yeah.
there's been an increase where you live, how much is it? Has it affected you? Has there been a shortage? Has gas stations shut down this week? If you noticed anything at all like that, let us know. We'd be interested to know where you're at, what it's like for you.
Do you believe? What do you think about this pipeline hack? Um, they say the Russians did it. I haven't read too much. I just heard. I haven't even did any research into it because it kind of bothers me that something that valuable would get hacked, or not only that, get hacked where it can't be fixed quick enough that it doesn't impact our country.
This is what I think with things like this is because we take things for granted, like electricity,
Wow, you see
clean
that?
water, um, gas. Um, we take these things for granted that we can go to the store and get a gallon of milk for 250.
Hmm.
Um, in other countries, there might be significant things, weird things, that you run out of bread, eggs, whatever it is.
Yeah,
So we tend to take it for granted because we take it for granted. We don't think a lot about it. We don't put the systems in place in order to prevent something bad from happening. So we saw what happened in Texas with the power in
yeah,
Texas, with
yeah,
the infrastructure that was not able to withstand a storm. Okay, why is that? It's because we never thought of it before. It's just like
yeah,
what happened in the floods in New Orleans in when the levees broke. That was a while ago now. What has been done to prevent that from happening again? It could happen again. We don't know. Have they improved the levees so that they can withstand a Category 5 storm, or is it still at a Category 3 storm? I would be willing to bet that they haven't improved that so that they
yeah.
can withstand a Category 5 storm. So God
Right,
forbid that they ever have another Category 5 storm, it would happen again. We saw that
right.
with uh, so we tend to think that there's certain things in this country that um, is so basic that we tend to not think about them. We tend not to protect ourselves from some of the more basic attacks out there. Now, it's interesting to me that something so industrial like a pipeline, an oil pipeline,
Yeah,
or a power grid can be hacked electronically. I'm kind of curious as to how exactly they did it. I guess that the computer systems that run the pipeline shut down, and then so I don't know. I don't know how exactly that works. It would seem to me a mechanical process
yeah,
of getting oil from one place to another in a pipeline instead of electronic process, but I don't know.
yeah,
Um, Jeff says that dark side hackers were behind the pipeline shutdown. The
yeah. I
pipeline
heard that.
actually paid a ransom.
I've heard
Um,
something like that.
they paid a ransom, really?
I heard that. Yeah. I'm not sure how much it was and all that, but I did hear that. That was just like a couple days ago.
I
I heard
mean,
that.
they blame the Russians. I did hear that story. Bruya mentions a Russian affiliation. Um, so these Russians and Chinese hackers are kind of scary. This is the modern day warfare. We know that
Yeah,
militarily speaking, we're pretty safe from like any conventional attack, especially on our homeland. But we are vulnerable to other types of attack because somebody could be sitting in their basement, um, and hack into some sort of government agency and cause some damage. Um,
right.
it's interesting that some of these things, some it's like supply lines, um, commodities, can cause such a disruption to our lifestyle here in this country.
Yeah,
So things like gasoline can cause a big disruption to
yeah,
business, to families, um, and it has in this case. So we'll continue to see some of these things. We're not going to know what defenses are in place. They're not going to really talk about that They don't really talk about the nitty-gritty about like how this has happened, how many times people have tried to hack into government agencies, or how
Hmm.
many times they have tried to hack into infrastructure that could shut something down, an electric grid, for example. $5 million ransom to um, was paid by the pipeline company. So
Well, I think they're going to
it's
find
real.
out.
It's real.
I think they're going to also find out more, and I think they're going to take care of. I think there are going to be some consequences. Whoever they paid the ransom money to, they'll find out. They'll find out what happened. You know,
Hmm.
it's not going to just. I don't think it's just going to just go by like that. I was looking at something about that. I can't find it now. I got to come back to it later. But
What do you think
yeah,
about Liz Cheney? Liz Cheney has been removed. She made big news the past couple of weeks because they were voting to remove her from the leadership, from Senate leadership.
yeah,
Excuse me. She used to be the number three ranking person in the Senate in her party.
yeah,
Uh, she's been removed from that because basically she didn't support Trump and she's not supporting the lie, as she calls it,
yeah.
um, that the former president won the election. Shall we listen to her and her words? This
Sure.
is right after she had been voted out of leadership. This is her comments on C-SPAN.
Okay.
We have had the conference meeting. I am absolutely committed, as I said last night, as I said just now to my colleagues, that we must go forward based on truth. We cannot both embrace the big lie and embrace the Constitution. And going forward, the nation needs it. The nation needs a strong Republican Party. The nation needs a party that is based upon fundamental principles of conservatism. And I am committed and dedicated to ensuring that that's how this party goes forward, and I plan to lead the fight to do that.
Congressman, how concerned are you that former President Trump might end up back in the Oval Office, and what are you prepared to do to prevent it?
I will do everything I can to ensure that the former president never again gets anywhere near the Oval Office. We have seen the danger that he continues to provoke with his language. We have seen his lack of commitment and dedication to the Constitution, and I think it's very important that we make sure whomever we elect is somebody who will be faithful to the Constitution.
Last question. Betrayed by today's vote, Congresswoman, do you feel betrayed by today's vote?
I do not. I think that it is an indication of where the Republican Party is, and I think that the party is in a place that we've got to bring it back from, and we've got to get back to a position where we are a party that can fight for conservative principles, that can fight for substance. We cannot be dragged backward by the very dangerous lies of a former president. Thank you.
Very much. Hey guys, Mr. Kinzinger's up next.
Okay, so there you have it. She puts in pretty stark terms. It's like I will try and do everything in my power to make sure that the former president does not return to office. And this is somebody who voted with Trump and with the policies of Trump. It was like 92% of the time, or something like that. It's very high. The person that she was replaced by has a less of a percentage that she was voted with Trump,
More liberal.
and yet on this one issue, because of this one issue, she was put into leadership, and Liz Cheney was removed from leadership. Um, so what do you think? What do you think of her comments there and her stance?
Don't even care.
Don't even care, really?
The reason why I said that, because you just made your point. You said that
Okay,
she agreed with Trump 92% of the time.
correct.
How many policies before Trump did she agree to? Before Trump that impacted communities across this country.
Hmm.
How many policies did she agree with that I was against or that you were against? Now that they're kicking her out, what did you expect? You know what I'm saying? It's like they're trying to change the Republican Party. They want to make it
Yes,
more of a Trump-like party. And if you notice, look at the demographics of the age of people. In my opinion, this is my opinion, people like Liz Cheney agreed with so many things when it benefited her, right? Then it gets to a point of consciousness where you're like, wow, this is not right. Regardless of how it benefited me over the years, this is not right.
Mhm.
And you see someone like Liz Cheney speaking up. We've seen it throughout Trump's administration, throughout the time he was in office. Older people who decided that, wow, this is jacked up. This is not good. And they've been basically outcasts, from Trump's people. I mean, you had Mitt Romney there, Susan Collins, different people who have went against Trump and they've been, you know, basically blasted out. They're pushed back on out
Yes,
publicly.
yes.
So it's the younger generation. The younger generation, in my opinion, who lack education,
Mm,
lack of history, a lack of things that they need to know of what they're doing now resembles a horrific past in our country. It's going back. There have people in place that are willing to take us back to these days just by their policies. Then
well,
you have older people, in my opinion, older generation of people who are pushing these agendas also because they're trying to save a seat. Mitch McConnell,
yeah, yeah.
um, the governor of Abbott down here in Texas, they're holding on to political seats. That's all that's about. So you have a different thing that's going on in politics right now within the Republican Party. But look, it's the younger people that are speaking out. Hawley is speaking out. Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, these young people, younger than those that they're moving out of positions already, that are telling them
Well,
that they're wrong.
I think the story is significant because even if you don't care about Liz Cheney, even if you're a Democrat, even if you don't support her
I said that
policies,
loosely, by the way. That was loosely. I said that. I just gave you
I
my
know.
reasons why I said it.
No,
But
I understand. I understand.
it's going
I
to make a
just
difference in our country. Her
it's going
being
to make a
pushed out
difference in
is
the
going to make a
country.
difference.
That's my
Yes.
point because
Yeah.
for one thing, it shows that the Republicans right now, apparently, at least those who are loyal to Trump, it's almost has nothing to do with policy.
Yeah.
Stefanik, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Is it Stefanik, I believe,
I'm not
is
even
the way
sure.
I've heard it
I know who
pronounced,
you're talking about, but I'm not sure.
voted against the Trump tax policies. And yet, she's held up as some sort of champion of the Republican cause. So it's not about policy,
Why do you think that happened?
because if it
Why do
were
you think
about
that happened?
policy, then it would be they would let Liz Cheney remain because obviously she's more in line with policy aims of the GOP policy, but they don't care about policy right
It's
now.
not. It's not about that.
At least half of them don't care about policy right now. They care about kowtowing to Trump because Trump is seen right now as some sort of kingmaker. He's going to be like the kingmaker for 2022. Um, and whoever receives his blessing receives at least that enthusiastic 35% vote of people out there who are zealots to the cause of Trump, who will vote for that person simply because they received the blessing of Trump. That's the way I think it's going to happen. And so
The question is why, though.
there is a growing movement in the Republican Party of separating themselves from this sort of idea of the big lie, as it's being called, that Trump was elected in 2020. They want to separate themselves. There's a growing um, movement in the background. It's probably not going to happen, but there could be some kind of a third party coming, some sort of more common sense uh, Republican Party. And so that's what would be more significant for the country, regardless of, if you agree with Liz Cheney or not, or care about her and her policies or not. So it is kind of an interesting story. Is there a new GOP? Is it coming down the pike? I don't know. Go
Well,
ahead.
no, I'm just gonna
You
come.
had a couple of things to say.
Yeah,
So.
I'm gonna come back because we're talking about Liz Cheney and Stefanik. What she changed her position, and the question is, why did she change her position after all this time?
Mhm.
My opinion about her changing her position is position and power again. It also comes down to money that can be made supporting Trump, money from corporations, companies, all that stuff. She was somebody who was really not a factor before. Now she becomes a factor. Um, that goes all the way back to the reason why Ted Cruz. Listen to Ted Cruz prior to 2016 and listen to Ted Cruz now. Why did he change?
Hmm.
Money and power.
Okay.
So when you look at those are things that people don't want to lose. And that's a big issue there. Liz Cheney is older. How long is she going to be in there? How old is she? In her 60s, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So you're looking at the the mentality, the change of mindset and what they're doing with the Republicans. They're trying to change the identity of the Republicans. Why is that identity being changed? Who's above them that are you mentioned earlier about fear of losing power, fear of losing their positions. There's somebody above them that's pushing that agenda. It's not these Marjorie Taylor Greens and Matt Gaetz and Stefanik. They're not pushing that agenda. They don't have anything that's pushing that agenda for them. They don't have the status, the money, the corporation, the power to push that. But there's people behind them with the money that's saying here, influencing that in those decisions. In my opinion, we've seen it happen,
So it's about the
and
money.
we're gonna get to that a little bit later because I got some information I told you earlier.
Yeah.
All that I'm telling you, man, I've been watching this all week, and it's like more and more you see it revealed. It's like it's about money and power, corporations that are willing to accept the negative heat for the moment to push the bottom line. That's the
Yeah.
dollar.
So what do you think of the New York City mayoral race? There is an election for the New York City mayor. It's made news recently because I heard a story this week. They were asked how much is the median home price for a home in Brooklyn, and two of the candidates were
I heard
drastically
about that.
off, like 10%. They said that one person said about $100,000. One person said 80 to $90,000 for a home in Brooklyn, when the median price for a house in Brooklyn is 900,000, which is tough. It's hard to believe that it's that much. I would have think it might have been 300, 500, something like that.
Yeah,
Um, 900,000, but they're running for mayor in New York City, and they don't happen to know the price of a house in New York City. These are
right.
people, one of which was the Obama um, housing director, the
Yeah,
housing cabinet member. Okay, and another
yeah.
person has had a background in working in housing, and yet they don't seem to know the median price of a house in their own backyard where they're running for office. So, what does
Yeah,
that tell you? What does that tell you about the disconnect between our politicians and real people out there?
I think there are people that they may not know the. I don't think they know the price of housing in that city. Is that really important to know if you need to
I
run for
think
the
it is
mayor?
important.
I
I think it's
think
important.
if you can. The reason why I say that you're looking at who they're trying to, Bloom. What is it? What's his name? That can't run anymore. Um, what's the mayor now? The current mayor
Bloomberg,
is it Bloomberg? Okay, he can't run again. So
correct.
no, isn't De Blasio the mayor?
I'm sorry. De Blasio is. Bloomberg was the former mayor.
Yeah, he can't. He can't run again for a third term. So the whole point is get him out of there because people are so unhappy with him anyway. I think that's one of the main things. So people are just getting in there to run. Now the fact is, what are you going to do to make the situation better in New York City? Um, can you improve the housing? But to ask somebody, do you know the cost of housing in New York? I mean, yeah, you should know that. But is it really that important for the bigger picture of what you're trying to do in New York City? Are you trying to make life better for the citizens there? Are you trying to bring the crime rate down in New York? Are you trying to make affordable housing better? There's practices that can be put into place. Whatever the prices are, they can be better. So to not agree or to find a way to eliminate or to push back these people from running for mayor, it's the bigger picture they're trying to run for.
Hmm. Hmm.
That was a question that they couldn't answer, and it made them all look bad. Yes, I totally agree with you. But does that eliminate them from being mayor? No, not really.
Yeah, it's not going to
They didn't
eliminate
create.
them from being mayor, but it does send a red flag to me that they really don't know what normal people go through in here. They really don't know um, what it's like for average people.
Right. I agree with that.
There's a
So average
disconnect.
people got to get in. There's no average person in New York that's running for mayor. If there was an average person that was in that conversation, they would have stood out in that with that question.
Well, there is Gary Gurrell. I'm mispronouncing that person's name. Is a nurse, um, former nurse, and has served in Black Lives Matter. So that's probably a normal person. I don't know much about that
Yeah,
person at
I
all.
don't know him.
Here's a veteran, a military veterans running.
I
Um,
didn't keep up with
so
the New
I
York
think it's.
election.
I'm just looking at the list of candidates here. Just going down through them really briefly. Gives a one sentence. Um, there's a small business owner. So retired police officer. Um, so there's probably some people that are for real, but they probably don't stand a lot of a chance. Um, Andrew Yang is a person that has the most name recognition, being a former presidential candidate. Apparently, he's in the lead, and so we would expect that someone like him would win um, would win that race. And I think AOC, these people are kind of an outlier with that are sort of normal people, people who came from normal, humble beginnings, um, that can make it in politics
Hmm.
anymore, because for one, you got to be seen as somebody who's successful, that's made money, that it, that that's smarter than the rest of us. And then
Yeah.
unfortunately, we still have a status symbol. If you have money, it must be because you're smart, or you're better, you made good decisions, or you're somehow successful just because you have money, and therefore that's a reason to vote for you. And
Yeah.
it buys you TV time, it buys you um, finance. You can finance your own campaign. You can get your name out there much more readily. So it's still about money. It's still about people running
Always.
for office. Almost always, I'd like to see the percentage of. I mean, what I know, I've seen these stats before, but the percentage of people who are millionaires who are congressional members is staggering, staggering. Um, and I think that is concerning. I think there is a disconnect. You can't have normal people, a teacher, a former police officer, um, run run for office very much anymore,
Yeah.
because it's about status. It's about being able to um, power. So, if you
Right.
have power already, it's easy to get more. It's easy
Yeah.
to campaign. So, um, what else we got? What else we got going on? We have there was a
Yeah.
shooting in, guess where? Colorado. In
Yeah.
Colorado, yet
Yeah.
again,
That was
at a
last
birthday
weekend,
party.
last
Uh,
Sunday.
very sad, very sad. 7 people were dead. Apparently, this person was upset because they were not invited to this party.
Yeah.
Um, I have a short video here. Let's look at that comment.
For the second time in less than 2 months, Colorado is the scene of another mass shooting. 7 people are dead after a man brought a gun to a home where a family was celebrating a birthday party.
The shooting happened in a neighborhood in Colorado Springs just after midnight. More than 20 hours later, police have said very little about what happened at Canterbury Mobile Home Park.
9 News reporter Mark Salinger is live there now. Mark.
Yeah, Steve and Jenny, the crime scene lab just pulled away behind me from in front of the house where 7 people were killed early this morning. Families are still trying to come to terms with what happened. Hugs and tears flow freely on a street where it's still hard to find the right words to describe what happened. 7 people dead. 6 were inside the home celebrating a birthday party. Then the shooter walked in. He took his own life after killing the others. We spoke with family of the victims who gathered Sunday outside the crime scene, still in disbelief. In the middle of unimaginable pain, none were ready to talk about what they'd lost. Family who were at the party say it was a small gathering of just over a dozen people. By the time midnight hit, kids were asleep on the couch and the party was winding down. Then the boyfriend of one of the women walked in with a gun and started shooting. On a street where words can't describe the pain that's being felt, information is also hard to come by. And as family and friends search for answers, Colorado Springs police did not respond to any of our calls or messages today seeking to learn more about what happened. They do say, however, that all those killed inside were adults. None of the children there were injured. Steve and Jenny, we hope to learn more about what happened tomorrow.
Yes, we do. All right. Mark Salinger reporting for us in Colorado Springs tonight. Thank you, Mark. And
So once again, somebody upset, somebody
Yeah.
takes out their frustrations on innocent people.
Yeah. And it's sad. But these are the things that are happening. Um, and it's sad that innocent people had to die who had no idea what was going on. And
Yeah.
I think, it's anger and emotions are making a lot of people to make bad decisions. And the
Mm.
reason why I say that is because not only is it fire, it could be anything. We have not learned. We have to go back to having people understand how to manage their emotions.
Mm.
Everything that someone says or do to you doesn't mean you have to make a response. And the reason why I say I saw a young man this week. I forgot what city, but he was like a Dunkin' Donuts worker, and this guy was in the drive-through making some racist statements toward this young man in the
Really?
drive-through. The guy comes in. The guy is 77 years old. Comes inside to the young guy, and he calls him a racial slur. The young guy
Wow. You
says,
saw this?
"It's a video with it." Yeah, the young guy said, "Oh, I didn't say it was a. It's in the news. You can look it up." And the young man tells the guy, "Say it again. Say it again." And the old man said it again, and the young guy punched him in the jaw and knocked the guy out. He fell back and hit his head and died.
Oh, okay. I think I did see a a story about that.
So, because of the ignorance of one man and the lack of self discipline for another man, two families are now grieving. One man is going to serve time in jail while the other one is dead. And you have to learn really to pick your battles, number one. And you have to be wise in how this happens. Now, if the older gentleman had approached the guy in a threatening manner, other than saying words, if he had raised his fist up, or if he had tried to throw a punch and he punched the old man, knocked him out, and he fell and died, that's a different story. But it was the racial slurs that was thrown at the guy,
Right.
which is
Right.
not cool. It's not right. No. But why didn't management call the police? This happened in the drive-through. The other thing is, when that man walked in, you don't know if that guy is coming in there with a gun or not.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
no idea. So that can be gone. That can be handled in so many different ways. You got to look at what city did this happen. I can't remember right now. Who's the
Tampa.
prosec-
Tampa Bay.
Who's the prosecutor? How are they going to prosecute this young man? Are they going to give the benefit of the doubt that he was defending himself? Again, I don't know if this man has a gun.
Hmm.
What if the old man had a gun? He didn't show it, but he comes into my place of work threatening me with racial slurs. So the point I'm making is that the young guy could not control his emotions,
Right.
which led him to hitting someone and end up killing him, which was unintentional. He didn't mean to kill that guy.
Yeah. It's manslaughter. He's being charged with manslaughter. So
So
apparently he appeared in court this week,
yeah.
a few
So
days ago.
so that goes back to this birthday party. If you're upset because you weren't invited, you mean you couldn't manage your emotions enough that you had to go get a weapon to go harm people at a party who had nothing to do with you not being there? You know what I'm saying? And then also, wasn't it like his ex-girlfriend or girlfriend was there? Ex-wife?
Yes. Yes.
It was
His ex was there.
you know what I'm saying? All that was a bigger factor than the birthday party, in my opinion. It's like, why are you going after somebody in this manner to kill somebody?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
This is
Shall we
where
look
we're
at
at.
that? Shall we look at that video with the Dunkin' Donuts employee?
I mean,
I
you
was
can't.
not able to find the actual video of the punch,
Yeah,
but just about the story.
yeah. You go
Should we
ahead.
look at that?
You go ahead.
Okay, here we are.
Racial slur has turned deadly, and now a Tampa Dunkin' Donuts employee is facing charges. Police say the fast food worker punched a 77-year-old man after he directed a number of those slurs at the employee. 3 days later, the elderly man has died. And Fox 13's Catherine Hawley is live in Tampa with more on the story. Catherine.
Corey Pujols is in jail tonight, charged with aggravated manslaughter. Tampa police say one punch caused that customer to fall and hit his head on the concrete floor, dying from his injuries just days later. Everything started last Tuesday around 1:30 p.m. in the drive-thru of this Dunkin' on South 50th Street. Tampa police say a 77-year-old customer was upset over the lack of service he was receiving.
The victim parks the car, goes inside, and has an argument with the employee. Well, at that time, there was a racial slur that was thrown out at the employee, and the employee told the victim to say it one more time.
That employee was 27-year-old Corey Pujols. According to arrest paperwork, when the elderly man repeated the same racial slur, Pujols punched him once in the face.
The suspect ended up punching the victim so hard that he fell back, hit his head on the ground. And so when we arrived, he was unconscious and bleeding from the head to where he had to be taken to the hospital.
Court documents say the man was rushed to the intensive care unit at TGH, being treated for head and brain injuries. He never regained consciousness, passing away Friday. A doctor told officers the man had a skull fracture and brain contusions.
This customer was a regular. He apparently came by that Dunkin' Donuts a lot.
Pujols told investigators the elderly man was being extremely rude that day. Police writing in the report, at no time did the decedent place his hands on the defendant or attempt to strike the defendant. Pujols was initially charged with battery that was upgraded to aggravated manslaughter after the 77-year-old died. And Pujols is set to be in court for that new charge this Thursday. Kelly.
All right, Catherine Hawley reporting for us tonight. Thank you, Catherine.
So there you are. Interesting.
There's a lack of discipline, and that's what bothers me is that I think people are so tired and exhausted right now of situations like this that they are handling themselves because no one else is going to handle it for them. You know, you have to die to get justice. You know what I'm saying? So in that situation, the manager should have stepped in. Some supervisor should have stepped in and broke that up.
Yeah.
Where was leadership in that situation? Unless they weren't there, unless he was the leadership in the building, I don't know. But where was the leadership to step in to intervene and de-escalate? And that's another word, de-escalate. We have no sense of de-escalation in our country anymore.
No
matter what area it is.
No.
And that brings me to another
birthday
story.
Party, service at the Dunkin' Donuts. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
This brings me to another story that I just found out about yesterday. Of Jamal Sutherland. He was a mental health patient in North Charleston psychiatric facility, mental health facility, and some top fight broke out at the place, and he was arrested, and he was going up for a bond hearing, and they were coming to get him out of his cell, and he kind of panicked. And we don't know what the situation was, but he was not. It's almost like what was being understood was that he didn't understand what was going on, and they tased him, they pepper sprayed him. Now he's really panicky, and he died. And I have a video here of the scene inside, and it goes back again that we were talking about. You heard people say this over the time with law enforcement in these type of situations when you know it's a mental health issue. Why not have a mental health expert with you? Why didn't someone de-escalate this confrontation?
Why didn't somebody intervene?
Why did somebody intervene? You see this guy is not cooperating, and it looks as though he's scared. He's asking, "Why are you doing this to me?" And that's I want to show this video now. Let me share this. And again, it comes down to de-escalation. Why can't our country learn how to handle things appropriately? Is it that you don't care? What is it? And so here's the video.
Get down, Sutherland! Get down on the ground! Get down, Sutherland! Get down!
Control 37E, SMU, 37E, SMU.
Turn on your stomach. Turn on your stomach. Turn on your stomach. And you're gonna get another one. Come to the door. Slide to the door. Slide to the door. Slide to the door.
Interesting.
Stay on your stomach. Stay on your stomach. Slide. Come to the door. I got it. Slide. Keep sliding. Keep sliding. Keep sliding. I got it. Keep sliding. Come on, Sutherland. Keep going. Keep coming. Sutherland. Keep moving. Keep sliding. No, stay down. And slide. Stay down and slide.
What's the meaning of this?
Keep coming. Keep coming. Hey, turn over on your stomach. Turn on your stomach. Turn on your stomach. Turn on your stomach.
For what?
Turn on your stomach.
As far as I'm turning.
Keep going.
No.
Oh, undo it, get everything, because you said I closed it.
As far as I'm turning. Just stop.
You gotta resist.
I'm going to resist the officer.
Stop, you still got clothes in you. Loosen up. Loosen up.
Officer.
Hey.
Now, what was the reason for them tasing him?
Yeah, because he was already down, and they were putting the cuffs on him already. So why would they tase him at that point?
I mean,
don't
in the
understand.
video goes a lot longer. It goes a lot longer. It goes a lot longer than that.
Okay, I was going to ask, like, why did they cut it off there?
Even before that, I mean, that's the only thing I can find. I saw a different one on CNN last night. He actually had a spoon in his hand at one point before they handcuffed him. But it's obvious there should be someone intervening at this point because you see that he's going through something.
Yep.
He's not cooperating in that sense. And you've already come with a threatening approach with tasers.
Yep.
I would be scared too. I won't trust you. I mean, we see what's going on. I don't trust you. So, what do we do? I don't know. How do we fix the situation? I don't know. But there's something there's something drastically going wrong in our country when it comes down to reform, police reform, when it comes down to how people are handled by the police. We know he was in a mental hospital where you took him from. So we know there's an issue.
Yeah.
Was this man known to be a violent person in the past? I have no idea. But that wasn't how you handled that situation. I could have handled that better than that. And I'm not even an officer or a mental health expert. There was no calm conversation. It's direct messages in an angry tone. And then you hear, I've heard someone this past week, we was in a conversation about disciplinary action with students and things like that. Students and adults who have been incarcerated. And they're saying that they don't deserve to be handled with care. You don't need to talk softly to someone who's committed a crime.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that before they're convicted, before they're like proven guilty of something, you're going based on the fact that they've been arrested, that they don't deserve to be treated fairly, or they deserve to be treated with some type of dignity.
Yeah.
That wasn't cool. I mean, the man was already handcuffed. Why are you tasing him? That goes all the way back to Marvin Scott, here in Texas. They're still protesting for Marvin Scott. Yeah. And check this out. This is something that came up to me. People, again, I always bring up a racial issue every week because it's dear to my heart. And it's something that annoys the heck out of me. And it's something that at 51 years old, I wish was not here, but is here. And we have not learned to erase it from our appropriately erase it from our culture. Not the history of it, but just take it out of our culture of today.
Yeah.
I saw this. They've been protesting for Marvin Scott here in Dallas, in the Texas area, North Texas, and he was killed. 7 officers were already relieved of their jobs. But there was this woman who did this. she did this speech in front of the Grayson County Courthouse, which is a little north of me. And she started talking about the history of that courthouse. And there was a guy, his last name was Hughes. He was accused of, I think it was assaulting his employer's wife. There was no proof he did it. This is back in like 1930 something. A mob of people, they arrested the guy, took him to jail. They took him to the courthouse to another jail to keep him protected, basically, because a mob of people came looking for him.
Okay.
The day that he was having his court date, they had him in a vault to protect him because it was like over 1,000 people in a mob trying to get in there to get to this guy.
Okay.
The mob couldn't get to him, so they ended up lighting fire to the courthouse. They burned it down, burned it up.
Wow.
This guy ended up dying inside of the vault. They got in there, they put dynamite to the side of the vault, blew it up, and dragged him out, put him on a truck, and dragged him through the streets. They mutilated his body. They put his body on a tree, or they hung his body up in this black district. It was a street called Mulberry Street, and that was where all these flourishing black businesses were at. And they basically destroyed that little area and hung this man's body there.
Oh.
So the courthouse was demolished. So the courthouse was built 6 years later in 1936. Okay, there's historical markers there, but not one historical marker associated with what happened during that time period. During that time period, there's no historical marker about this guy who was killed and hung and mutilated. For to be accused of something that he kept saying he was innocent of. There was no proof he did anything.
Okay.
And that's the history of our country when it comes down to how people are handled, how they're cared for. And you saw this in this video, how this guy, he didn't matter to them. His life was not important enough. And for a mob of people to come after, although that was an era of mobs getting people out of jail to kill them, was common in that time period of Jim Crow. Why are we highlighting these things in our history books? And that brings me back to the conversation about the 1619 Project. So many people are pushing back on this being a topic of discussion. And I'm understanding, what is your fear? What is the fear of talking about our true history? How are we going to ever learn? How are we ever going to be able to sit back and look at what's going on in 2021 and say, wow, this is historical. This has been a continual thing over the years, and we have yet to address it because we won't talk about it. There's no reason why that man that's coming from a mental hospital should have been killed like that.
Oh, no reason at all. I've observed that people are very unconcerned with, if you're labeled as a criminal, you're somehow almost less than human. If you're guilty of something, if you're being arrested for something, then the default of a lot of people in our society is that, well, you deserve whatever you get.
But you're
So
not
even if
guilty
you
yet.
are guilty, even if you did something bad, like we have mentioned before, police have a responsibility for those in their custody, even those that are arresting, even those that are guilty, have rights. They have rights, and they have rights as human beings to be treated with dignity and respect. That person did nothing to you. They might have done something to somebody else, but you as a police officer have to be dispassionate about the situation and treat things as a neutral party. And you can't sort of come in and just be like, well, they're a criminal, they're trash, this person is mentally ill, this person did something wrong, therefore I can treat them like this because, number one, I can get away with it. Number two, they deserve it. In their mind, they deserve it. So it's troubling. I hear things like that from people that hint at that, as far as like, well, the people who cross the border, well, they might deserve it to be locked away for weeks without a lawyer in some sort of fenced-in cage. Well, no, they don't really deserve that. They crossed a border. That's illegal. But do they really deserve to be treated then somewhat less than human? No, of course not.
No, it's not.
They deserve to be treated as human beings, and that goes for in this case as well. When they're trying to get somebody who's already in jail just to simply take them into court, it's troubling. It's troubling
Yeah,
to me.
I totally agree. And I'm looking at Darren's comment here. Families love to keep secrets. To accept the 1916 project is like finding out your
Mm,
uncle is your father. Um, I totally understand that, and it's almost if you look back at history, you could probably find a lot of families can look back at their history and say, "Wow, my family did this." We're not saying you did it. We're looking at just accept responsibility today, not
mhm.
continue to not continue with that same mindset as your ancestors did. Um,
It's easier to keep the lie than to live with the truth for the USA.
it is.
Um,
I mean,
I'll have to ask what exactly Darren's referring to here,
this
but
is how you live with the lie. We talked about this earlier. Um, that segues into my next conversation. We talked about it earlier.
go for it.
There
What is
are
it? What is it?
in corporate America, and this is living with the lie. This is how you live with the lie. You create narratives. You live with the lie because you find a way to absorb the guilt that you may have to make you feel good about yourself
Mm,
in order to continue living life and making money. Living with a lie can cost people their money. Living with a lie, exposing the lie can lose people's money. Exposing the lie, you can lose your position. Companies can close down by exposing a lie. So right now, corporate America is dealing with their own situation with the insurrection on January 6th of our capital. You
okay.
have people that are companies who supported certain Republican politicians, gave them money. The insurrection happened.
Hmm,
These
hmm.
companies then said, we're going to withhold our money. We don't agree with what happened, and we don't agree with those 147 politicians who agreed with the insurrection, who wanted to overturn our election. They voted on it. It showed that they wanted to overturn the election. They voted for it. Those same corporations now are in this battle of how do I deal with being questioned on supporting this politician versus doing the right thing. Doing the right thing is to not support them, withdraw your money, find someone else. The other side is you've been with this person for so long and you've accepted their dirt until now the dirt makes you feel guilty. The dirt makes you feel guilty enough to make you say, I can't do this any longer. That goes back to George Floyd. George Floyd have had that type of death has been happening to Americans for a long time. The way George Floyd died. That is not the first one to die because he had a knee to his neck and
Yeah,
couldn't breathe. The
yeah.
difference was that America saw it and was like, wow, I've accepted this and didn't say nothing, but now I got to speak up.
Mm, mm.
And that's what America did. They spoke up because they said, I can't take this anymore. This is what's going on with corporations right now. And there's a guy named Jeff Legum. Jeff Legum is exposed the story because there's a Republican, what do you call him, a strategist, the operative of the Republican Party. His job is to come in and he helps corporations kind of deal with the situation of exposure and publicity of being on the wrong side of history. And so Jeff Legum exposed this because in March there was this webcast that was done held by uh, this Republican strategist name is Michael
Uh-huh.
Duhame, and he brought these companies in, 80 of them, people like Delta, Home Depot, New York Life Insurance, Dow. A lot of these companies came in to learn how to move past January 6th for the bottom line, which is the dollar. How do you move past that for the money? So I want to give you a
Wow.
little bit of this interview. This is going to be Jeff Legum talking a little bit about what's going on. It's a long video, but I'm going to post a video in the chat so you guys can take a look at it on your own. Chris Hayes brought him on MSNBC.
MSNBC. Yeah.
Chris Hayes brought him on the other day to talk about this, and it really caught my attention really strong because it bothered me because companies will agree with a politician who they know are wrong, and then they will make up a reason why they're supporting this person. Like that's just like me hitting you in the face, Darren. I hit you in the face. I knock your teeth out. The whole world saw it, right? I take it a different direction. I take it a different direction. I take it a different direction.
Okay.
I hired a guy to come to your house to do some work. You make him mad. He punches you in the teeth, knock you out. The guy gets out. I tell the guy, I'm going to suspend you from work. The guy gets suspended. Over the next 3 months, I give him his job back, and I give him other positions to do. The whole country is upset with me because I kept this guy on my payroll. My family's even mad at me. They're like, why do you keep hiring this guy? And I say, well, the guy's a good worker. He's dedicated. He's never let me down before. He's done 10 other things that were better than that one time he hit you in the face. The fact is, I know this guy was wrong. I know this guy also does things to keep making me money. He's the best tech I have out there that does work at your house. He's the one that keeps bringing money in my pocket, putting money in my pocket. I'd rather keep him for that than to get rid of him for that one bad thing he did that was totally uncalled for. This is what corporate America is dealing with right now.
Wow.
For the bottom dollar. Here's Jeff Lake. I'm talking a little bit about that. I know I talked a little bit, but this has freaking bugged me all week when I heard about this.
Yeah,
I knew it happened. I knew it happened. But to hear somebody facilitating it, telling people, corporations, people are going to be mad at you, but you got to keep it moving. Man. Okay, here we go.
Let's hear it.
I'll talk all day on this.
You got it ready?
Yeah, I got it ready here, man.
Okay.
It's just, man, it just bothers me. Here we go.
Judd, first, can you give us a little context about what this webinar event was, who the group is that's hosting it, and what the point of it was?
Well, this is a group, the National Association of Business PACs, that's actually the trade association for corporate PACs. And they hold different seminars. And in March, this seminar featuring Michael Duhane was titled, Where Do We Go From Here? And the purpose of it was many of these companies had pledged to suspend their donations either to all politicians, all members of Congress, or just the 147. And this group, which you call NABPAC, it has its initials spell out, was trying to help them work through how to restart those donations. And if you listen to the webinar, which is about 40 minutes long, the clear message was that corporations should begin to restart their donations to the members of Congress that voted to overturn the election. And that's what Mr. Duhane, who is a crisis communications consultant, a Republican operative, was taking them through. It's only going to be a one-day story. Here's how you should do it. Set up a murder board with different communications professionals and sort of lob the tough questions about why you're giving to insurrectionists, and just get prepared, take your lumps, and let's move forward.
I mean, I should point out that Michael Duhane is someone who, has a public profile and has not been a particularly Trumpy Republican in his public profile, and has been, as he noted, quite critical of January 6th and critical of Trump and all this stuff. But to me, this is just an example of precisely like the gravitational pull here, which is like everyone had seizures of conscience. They were horrified by what they saw, and I think public opinion also pushed them in that direction. But it doesn't matter in the long run. Like, business is business. They're going to get back to it.
Yeah, and I think that's where Duhane was coming from in this webinar. It wasn't a Trump fest. There wasn't a lot of talk about how the election was stolen. It was about the necessity of getting these contributions started and how to prioritize the bottom line of your business. And he was very direct that these contributions are the way that corporations get access to politicians, and encourage them. He said that that's a good reason you can continue to do that. But because of this new environment, you're going to have to, for public consumption, come up with a pretext, a better reason to tell the public of why you're resuming to these politics.
He says at one point, it's a perfectly good reason to say you're donating to these legislators because they have power over you. But you can't say that out loud. But of course, he's right insofar as that is the reason, right? This access relationship and wanting to sort of grease the wheels of regulatory decisions is precisely what's going on with all these PACs.
Yeah, and I think there was a moment in time, and we're actually still in that moment, where corporations said, this may not be in our financial interest, but what happened on January 6th was so outside the bounds of what we can tolerate that we're going to put that aside. And if you looked at the first quarter donations, for the most part, there were exceptions, but for the most part, corporations withheld that money. But now is really a test, and there's a push and pull of, are corporations going to stick to that? Or are we going to go back to business as usual? And that's what this webinar was really about.
Judd Legum, great reporting. Very well done. Thanks for making time for us tonight.
Well, there you have it. I mean, at least they admit it, that this is how you get access to politicians in the political process is through money. Business is business.
But what we fail to do is, as American citizens, those that oppose these type of tactics, we keep supporting these same businesses. That's how you stop it. A business, they have not lost a dime since the insurrection because no one's boycotted them. In certain like Georgia, they did some boycotting in Georgia. They tried to do some here in Texas.
That's what's going to make the difference. I think that people get lazy and they don't hear these kinds of stories because it just glosses over people's minds. It goes over their heads. It's not reported. NABPAC, I'm looking at the website right now. National Association of Broadcasters Political Action Committee is a federal political action committee of the NAB. It supports the election of candidates to the U.S. Congress.
That's the only way to make a difference, man, is the boycott. I've been saying I mentioned that last year. I mean, late last year. Remember, I mentioned some of this about boycotting companies, and it's like that's how you make a difference because you're like, I'm not supporting you anymore. I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to put the article there so people can see this article for themselves. Let me find it here. I had it. Here
what
we
are
go.
the statistics about whether this works? Like boycotting, we want to boycott Wendy's, or we want to boycott H&R Block, or whoever it is. We want to boycott. We want to not give them our business.
Let me give you an example.
What are the statistics that show that this works out there?
Okay, number one, the very first one that worked very well was the Montgomery boycott. The Montgomery boycott was so effective because the travel business, the busing companies were bankrupt because Black people stopped using their buses and started carpooling. They had to make change during the civil rights movement during that time period for that particular movement. You've had situations with
that was
Starbucks.
A while ago, but
yeah, Starbucks was a couple years ago when they had to make diversity changes in their companies. People vocally said, I'm not dealing with Starbucks. They blasted them on Facebook, all over social media. We're not going to Starbucks when two Black men were there for a business.
Did that make a difference, though?
Yes, it made a difference. It made a difference in Starbucks because they had to change their policies. They changed policies
Did it actually make a difference to their bottom line, or was it public perception? Was it more about public perception? They were like, well, we better do something about this because it's a national story.
How much money do you think
rather than
Starbucks
people
makes?
not coming into Starbucks and buying a cup of coffee?
How much money do you think Starbucks make in a day? One day.
Starbucks
globally. I mean, national, across the country, just the United States.
As a profit?
Yeah.
Billions.
In one day, right?
Yeah.
One day. So when those two guys got arrested and they decided to have their diversity and inclusion conversation It was for 3 days, I think it was. It was a 3-day conversation. That means the stores were closed for 3 days. You don't think that made a difference on their income? Did Papa John's lose a hit with John Snyder when they told him to get out?
Well, they didn't do very much about it, and they're still in business.
No. What I'm saying is that they took a hit initially. And what did
And
they do
then
with
people
him?
forgot about it.
No, what did
And then
they do with
people
John
forgot about it.
Snyder? They kicked him out, right? He was
Yep.
the owner. Didn't they kick him out?
Yeah.
What happened to Roseanne Barr?
But she's been blacklisted, kind of, but
Why?
unofficially. But that's a little bit different. That's Hollywood, though.
No,
I'm
well,
talking about businesses.
but that's what I'm saying. You don't think ABC is a business? We talk about sponsors.
Okay. All right.
So what
Point
I'm
taken.
saying is
Point
that
taken.
the point I'm making is that people publicly made a conversation. Now, when you come down to businesses, we have to decide if we're going to boycott them or not. Yeah, Darren, the bus boycott. That's what we were talking to. Yeah.
So the Montgomery bus
It takes
boycott
that
took
sacrifice.
place in the 50s, 1955 to 1956, from December to December. So just over a year, by the way. So
why are we still having these conversations?
well, I mean, I think you see places that do take a hit, but then keep on chucking away. Papa John's. You see places that take a hit. Amazon. People have protested against their policies, but Amazon keeps trucking away, right?
But who were their policies impacting?
Everybody. I mean, Amazon is everywhere.
No. What I'm saying is that, do you feel when I say take advantage, like what is the crime that they're doing against you? Nothing. Amazon is monopolizing the industry. Is what people don't like. Okay, what these corporations now are doing by standing behind these Republicans who decided to support the insurrection are affecting lives. They're affecting people's right to vote. They're affecting the policies that go on from state to state. Every state that went on and these governors and these politicians that supported that insurrection are in a position of changing lives. If they had succeeded in taking over that capital, lives would be impacted today. Even if our military went and bombed the capital and killed everybody that was in there because it was taken over, lives would have been impacted today because of that move. There would be a power struggle today because of that move. Stopping that type of action, stopping that stuff is what I'm talking about. Stopping it, and our companies can do that. To expose with this NAP pack or whatever, to expose this is something that's good in my opinion.
So I mean,
that's another good one, Joe Elder. That's a very good example.
Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah, prime example. That was a great example. And I mean, it happens, all over. You see, it happens where the bottom dollar makes a difference.
But you also see places like Chick-fil-A. You also see Hobby Lobby, where people have been against their policies that the owner or president or CEO comes out with, and yet they're still trucking along.
They are
still doing big business.
And what does that say about the Americans that support it? What does it say about those people?
It could be that those Americans support those companies because of the policies.
Exactly. That's the point I'm making.
I mean, they made this with Trump this week. Trump never got above, like, what is it, 43% or something like that. Yet people are willing to kowtow him. People are willing to ride his coattails. Why? Because that 40% or 38%, whatever it is, 34%, is extremely enthusiastic and will come out and support in big numbers for those people. So it doesn't matter if the majority of people in this country have a negative view of something anymore, or if the brand name, be it whatever brand name it is, if it's an airline, if it's a restaurant, if they have a negative view, as long as they can make money, they're going to still keep it on.
But it takes people to want. I like I said, I look at myself. I boycott certain companies. I don't use certain organizations.
Who do you don't use?
I boycotted Home Depot.
Home Depot. Okay.
Papa John's. I've not had Papa John's since John Statter made that comment. I didn't like Papa John's originally, but my wife did, so I bought it. But after that statement, we have not bought Papa John's.
Okay. Okay.
There's different. What else? Who else? New York Life. New York Life is a company that I was negotiating with somebody with, taking care of some of my personal finance,
Okay.
and I don't use them anymore. I'm not even in conversations about it anymore
All right.
because New York Life supports a lot of things that I'm against.
It takes a lot of will to
Um,
do that, to keep doing that year after year after
but
year.
it
Because those
does.
companies like New York Life, they're not going away. They're not
They're
going away
not.
anytime soon.
But what makes them go away
Home
is that.
Depot, not going away anytime soon.
But as you educate people to make them change their choice of how they support things,
Hmm.
education is what it's about. If no one knows what's going on, like that video I just showed you, you weren't aware of it. So what I'm saying is that unless we educate people and keep people aware of what's happening, the more and more I put it out, the more and more you make these things known, it can make a difference. The thing about it though, people aren't concerned until they're personally impacted. When you're personally impacted, then you want to stand behind and boycott something, or you want to do something different.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
can guarantee you that that guy that knocked the old man out, he worked for Dunkin' Donuts.
Hmm.
His family will probably never eat at a Dunkin' Donuts again because they're upset because their son is in this situation. Now, I'm not saying that the guy was
You know,
right. I said he was wrong.
going
He
back to
was
that,
wrong. He was wrong.
I don't really. I'm not sure if I blame the guy that hit him.
I'm
I
not
mean,
saying
somebody's going to get in my face. Um, I might take a swing at somebody. I mean,
it's the
he didn't
discipline,
intend to kill him.
but you might not have went to jail that day. You might not have went to jail for the same exact thing. You hit a 77-year-old man.
I'm not
You
thinking
might not.
about that at the moment. I
But
might not
what
be thinking about that.
that's the point I'm making. He's a young guy.
Yeah.
So there's times where people have done the exact same thing and got away with it. I mean, a black
Well,
guy hitting a white guy and get away with it because it
we,
depends on what city you're in. It depends on the situation. All that. This was
and
a young guy.
we talked about de-escalation. And if
Mhm.
somebody's coming through the drive-through and they say something to you, and then they take the time to stop, park the car, pull around, walk into the restaurant, and continue to berate you. Um, then that's when it should have been de-escalated. The de-escalation should have taken place where the guy who's making the comments should have just driven away. Okay, but if you're going to come into the restaurant and confront me physically in my face, I can't say that I blame it at all for that. So I don't see that as a de-escalation thing. Somebody should have intervened, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and the fact that but it's the guy's fault. I mean, if you're going to stop and come into a restaurant and start yelling at somebody because of the service that you got through the drive-through, then that's on you.
Right.
The de-escalation should have happened when that guy should have just driven away.
Why was it right when the guy was at the drive-through? A manager should have came to the drive-through. I mean, I'm sure people could hear this guy fussing and arguing.
Yep.
Somebody
I
should
mean,
have
there's
intervened right
multiple
there.
people on the headphones. It's not just one person that's on the headphones. There's at least one other person, probably two, at a restaurant who is listening in to that, and he could start preparing the food that they are ordering
Yeah.
before it gets into the system. So,
Yeah.
at any rate, so I mean, I don't mean to belabor that Dunkin' Donuts
No,
story,
but
but
no, you're
I
right.
just
I
kind of
just look
bothered
at it.
me because it's like, well, wait a minute, if somebody's going to come in my face and start shouting at me, especially if it's racial, it's about like who I am. It's
Yeah.
insulting me personally, and
Right.
I'm going to get upset on that. Um, and so the de-escalation um, should have happened before that.
But that's the difference of the person itself, the individual. I have to think about those things. You didn't have to. You said you would get upset too. I got to think about those things. I got to think about where am I at when this happens?
Okay.
What community am I in when this happens? Who are my coworkers when this happens? Who are my neighbors when this happens? Are they going to have my back? Are they going to defend me? Are they going? You know what I'm saying? All those things got to factor into me before I make a irrational decision of
Well,
being upset. You see what I'm
I
saying?
want to,
That makes a
yeah.
difference. It is. It makes a difference.
We want to
Um,
know out there from people like what companies that you are boycotting. Do you boycott companies? Do you think it makes any difference to boycott companies? Have you struggled with a company that maybe you used to like, that you used to have a product with, that you used to have your insurance with, that all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait a minute, you disagree with um, a stance that they might have taken, or you disagree with the policies that the company had, and you had to make the decision to go somewhere else. Share us a story if it's big or small.
I got to make a correction. I went to Home Depot, I think twice since I started boycotting them.
Hmm.
I went because they had the bricks that I originally bought for my yard, and
See, it's
Lowe's
hard
didn't.
to do.
And
It's
Lowe's
hard to
didn't have it.
do.
And Lowe's didn't have it. So I did go out for that. And there was some paint I got that they didn't have at Lowe's, or I couldn't find the paint that I needed to match. So I did. But and overall, though, I don't go to Home Depot. I refuse to go until it's like a need. And then that thing about it is that I have to make alternatives for the need, and which I've
Hmm.
done that also.
Okay.
If you remember last year during the blackout, you know, for Tuesday, July 7th, I blacked out. I found alternative restaurants to go to. I found a lot of
Yeah.
things to do something different because I was going to boycott certain companies. And thing about it is that it makes me feel good to know that I have choices. I can choose to go somewhere else. It may make me drive a little longer. I might have to pay a little
Yeah.
bit more money, but I choose to do that.
I commend you for that because I think most Americans are actually pretty lazy. They're used to convenience. People love convenience in this
Yeah.
country. People are addicted to convenience in this country. So as often as that we want to bang on Jeff Bezos and how that Amazon doesn't pay their fair share of taxes, who they don't, as much as we want to bang on how they don't
Yeah.
care for their employees, guess what? Guess what we're doing? We're going to go online to Amazon and order what we need, and it's going to arrive within a few days at our doorstep
Yeah.
because it's convenient. Most Americans are going to do that, regardless of what they feel about whatever company's policy. So um,
Well,
it
you get
takes a lot of will to do it. It takes a lot
well,
of will to do it. There's a lot of justice issues that happen, things that happen overseas, like clothing companies that run sweatshops,
yeah.
or let's say Wendy's, for example. A couple of years ago, Wendy's refused to pay their farm workers in Florida a fair wage for picking tomatoes, right?
Yeah.
And since that time, when I go to Wendy's, I make sure that my burger doesn't have tomato on it. Now, probably if I really cared about the issue more, I would have probably said, I'm not going to Wendy's at all. I'm going to go to somewhere else to get my food when I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm going to totally abstain from Wendy's. But so that's the compromise that I've made, is because Wendy's is right next to my office. I go there a lot. I like their food in generally, and I
Yeah.
like other things about Wendy's. For example, they are very strong in advocating for adoption. They raise a lot of money for adoption
Right.
every year. So I like that. I like supporting that. I like that they have fresh foods in general. But it's just
Yeah.
one thing that I don't like about them. So am I going to totally abstain from that company? No. But I
Yeah.
did make the compromise of not ordering tomatoes. Does it make a difference? Probably not so much because I'm still giving them my money.
Right. I was looking up some successful boycotts. Um, Look at examples of successful boycott campaigns since 2000. Since 2000, Mitsubishi, De Beers, Fur Trade, and the Body Shop said boycotts have been a long important part of history, and certain boycotts have been successful. Um, I'm trying to look for a better list to show you some more, but I mean it happens. These are 15 corporate boycotts from 2019. You had let me find. I had a list here. I saw a list here. 2015. Where is it at? Chick-fil-A,
Chick-fil-A,
Wendy's,
Hobby Lobby.
Amazon, Wayfair. These are all Fitbit, Backcountry. I'm not sure what all those, but those were boycotts that went on in 2015. I don't know all the Ford Motors, Fiat Chrysler, the agricultural industries in Brazil. I'm not sure the impact that it made
Coffee
financially on those.
companies have been boycotted before.
Yeah, Uber. Well, Uber had a big boycott. Remember that?
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, it impacted them big time. They had to make some changes within Uber. They was getting sexual assault on drivers. Backcountry.com, a giant vendor of outdoors. Um,
So these
oh,
are these listed as successful boycotts, or they're just listed as boycotts?
well, the thing about it was, did things change policy-wise within their company? They had to do apologies. Let's see, what was it for Backcountry? They had 22,000 people on their Facebook. They boycotted them on Facebook. And they had to further by dropping all of its remaining legal actions and making amends to the business and groups harmed by its strategy. Um, they were, let me see. Oh, they started to stop other countries from using backcountry, the word backcountry. But you know what was another good hit was Old Navy. People started boycotting Old Navy a couple years ago because of racism. It was really big, and I'm not sure, I think it was in Africa, where they had the little boy with a monkey shirt on, and they were trying to advertise this line of clothing. The little boy didn't think nothing about it. The parents weren't in the room, I think, when the little boy was modeling the clothes. And he was like a minor, like 9 years old, maybe 8 years old. But it was a big thing because being called a monkey is a racial slur to African Americans, calling them a monkey. And so it was a
Huh.
big boycott. And so, oh shoot,
Yeah,
they
this
have
is
been
in
there was
2018, I believe.
there were several Old Navy has had several issues over the years
Okay.
of racial profiling in their stores to where they had to make policy changes. They had to make changes within their corporation on how they, view their customers.
Okay.
It got really big. I think one was in Illinois or Indiana. It went really viral. Um, so boycotts do work, especially when you get on, like I call it, Black Twitter, and they let people know what happened. Responses come quickly because it gets out there it gets out there really fast. I'm gonna put in there Old Navy boycott because 2019, uh, Black Old Navy workers claimed they were replaced by white workers. Old Navy with the ad, interracial family promotes social media. Um, and Gap was another one because they're both the same company basically.
Hmm.
But the little boy with the monkey shirt, man, that wasn't cool, and something that we got to just really. Here's a picture of it, you know.
I think to be educated consumers is something that in this country we need to work on,
Yeah.
as far as because um, it's just the right thing to do, and it
Mhm.
works.
Yeah.
I think it works mostly.
So that's something that we have to. H&M. That was H&M with the monkey shirt. My bad. H&M. See, I don't shop there. I used to
Okay,
shop
see,
there. I used to get some things from
I was
H&M.
searching
I don't even go
for
there.
Old Navy and I couldn't find it. Oh, exactly what you were talking about, but
The
yeah,
Old Navy has its issues too. They got stuff with Old Navy as well. But
okay.
H&M, I used to get shirts from there because I like their shirt. So I got a couple of shirts from H&M, and I don't go there anymore.
Hmm.
I can't remember the
Think,
last time I shopped at Old Navy. So these are things that I stay aware of because I'm not going to support a company who does not view me as a respected customer as they will my
hmm.
counterparts.
Okay, okay.
And that's just, do I take it serious like that? I do. I do. It's hurtful, man, and it's something that I don't think about. And I look around. I say, then I look at where I live at some time. If a company's
Hmm.
not going to totally support me in the communities that I'm living in, then I won't support it.
Hmm. Things are going on internationally. Um,
Yeah.
there is rockets being tossed by Hamas and Islamic Jihad at Israeli um, neighborhoods, and Israel has struck back. There's been people killed. Um, international community has come out condemning one side or the other. I'm sure you've seen some videos. I'm sure people have seen the sort of violence that has erupted there. This happens every few years where things get hot again and they cool
What
down a
started
little bit, but it's always simmering. It's always simmering there. It's
what
always
started this particular
something going on.
what started this initial one?
I
This
don't
new
even know. I don't
I
even know.
I understand that Israeli officers went and bombed a mosque or went into a mosque and started some problems.
Yeah,
And that
yeah. I'm
started
not.
a back and
I
forth.
heard that. Is that what started it though?
That's what I heard. What started it?
Okay.
This recent conflict. Um, I think it's sad on both sides. Um, I think it's sad because I don't know too much about Hamas, but I think that they're supporting their group of people. They're supporting their stance. Then you have Israel on the other hand, who have their stance. And the sad part about it is Israel is supported by every major country
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that with the firepower,
Yep.
which makes them superpower compared to
Yes, they are a superpower.
Palestine.
They are a nuclear power.
Yeah.
They are the bullies of the block in that area of the world.
So
And I say bullies because they have actually forcefully evicted people from their homes, and they keep doing this.
yeah,
Um, this is illegal, by the way, internationally, to forcibly remove a group of people from their homes and their lands, and they keep doing it. They build walls and fences. They make it very difficult on the Palestinians living in Gaza or the West Bank in order to make a living, in order to go to school. It's tough on those people.
yeah,
So when we see this and we say, oh, well, who started it? What started it? And we tend to cast blame. We need to understand the context, I think, is
yeah,
what has been going on there for decades
yeah,
in order to understand the complete picture. Those people that I know that have been there
yeah,
will tell you a different story than what you see on the news. And you
yeah,
see an incomplete picture. You see, in general, a more pro-Israeli view. Now, that's sort of changing nowadays. That's changing a little bit. It's slowly turning because you have the Israelis that have gotten very hardline.
yeah,
Both sides have gotten more separated as far as like being hard-lined and being um, uh, opposed to one another, and that's troubling. I don't know what the
yeah.
answer is at this point. I don't know what the answer is at this point because I don't think that the Israelis are willing to back down as far as like with their policies. So
Yeah, there's a lot of deep conversations about the current people who reside in Israel and their agendas versus the people of Israel from our biblical text.
hmm
And
hmm
this is so many conversations about that that's continuing to look at how they are handling that whole area over there with the
yeah,
Palestinians. And it's interesting. And I'm just sitting back and I watch from the outside because I'm
mm.
not over there. I'm not there. I've never been there. I want to go, but now I don't want
Yeah.
to
I want to
go.
go there, but I'm not sure that I do either.
Not right now. I need to go where it's kind of more peaceful. I had a coworker that went 2 years ago, and my church went last year.
hmm
And I went on that. I wish I went on that trip last year. It looked like it was really fun, to get baptized in the Jordan River.
Yeah.
So, but something to think about, man. It's really getting bad right now over there, and we don't know how this is going to further escalate globally. This
hmm
current escalation, because it looks different than in the past.
How so? How so?
It's the times that we're in. It's the
Well,
times that we're in.
people keep saying that every time that it happens, people are like, "Oh, this is it. This is the end times," or they point to this and that in the Bible, and they say, "Well, this could be it," and we're
Who was
still
leading?
here.
Who
So
was
we're
leading
still here.
Israel the last time it happened this bad?
Somebody else.
And that world leader, I mean
Does it
the
really matter who's
no, no,
leading it?
you know what I'm saying? The mindset of the person leading it. It wasn't it different? This
Yes,
person that's
that's
leading
different.
it,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That's what makes it different.
Okay. Okay.
But how you say his name? Niatu?
Netanyahu.
Netanyahu?
Netanyahu. hmm
To me, he seemed like he would go out. He would, if it gets to the point,
He's pretty hardline.
he would take them completely out.
Yeah, I think so.
That wasn't the mindset of the previous
No,
leaders of Israel.
that's not what
That's
I'm saying. They've gotten more hardline. They've gotten more separated from each other.
right. That's the
Hamas
difference.
was considered a terrorist organization, and then
Yeah,
they elected him into power. Then
yeah,
then they were like legitimized by having a democratic election, and oh well, we elected a majority government of Hamas
yeah.
representatives. So you're like, oh
And
crap,
why? And
now we
why?
have to sort of give them some legitimacy, right?
And why was that? Why did they do that to create a balance? But also, I think
It's a
for them to
reaction.
well, it's a reaction, but they also now have more awareness of what's going on with them compared to before, where they were more so hidden.
Hmm.
Because they were a terrorist group that was hidden. Now
Hmm.
they're more, political stage. You got more
Yes.
tabs on them. You got more people on the inside looking at what's going on. More alert, more intel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Than before. So that was the whole reason for letting them be part of the system like that was now you have more intel on them. It's a game. How many people
It's
have
a game.
think about it? How many people have been considered terrorists or enemies and become allies? They become enemies again because people don't get what they want. Then they become an enemy again.
Huh.
You
Is
see it
that
all the
some
time.
purpose? Do you think they do that on purpose? Like
It's all
it's
about
some sort of
power.
parlor trick game, or
It's power. I mean, think about it.
hmm,
Wasn't Saddam Hussein an ally at one
he
time?
was before.
Wasn't what's the other one?
Well, Afghanistan was an ally.
What was the guy? What was the guy's name in Afghanistan?
Osama bin Laden.
Wasn't he an ally at one time?
Yes,
That's what
against
I'm
the
saying.
Soviets.
That's
Against
what
the
I'm
Soviets.
saying. It goes back and forth until you don't get what you want. Me and you are co-hosts. One day it might be we don't get what we want, then me and Darren can't stand each other. That's how people act. If this was about money, if we were doing our show and it was about money, and you or I didn't get what I wanted out of this situation, and we're talking about money and power, we might have broke up already. But we do it because we love to do this. You see what I'm saying? It happens all the time. But you look at it from a political standpoint and government and world power,
Hmm.
it's about that, the power.
Well, I don't know. Religion also plays a role in this. The belief that somehow this
True.
is my land, this is my land forever, since this was my ancestors' land, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, even the time of Abraham,
Hmm.
uh, that somehow we are entitled to this now. Um, I'm not sure I get that. I mean, does it really matter at this point in history? Does it really matter? I mean, shouldn't we be talking about spiritual matters? Shouldn't religion
Should
talk
be.
about spiritual matters? I mean, haven't we gotten beyond the point of somehow this is the promised land,
Well,
and this?
God's word says it is, right?
Yeah, but I mean, can't you think of that in a different way that would be healthier for the world? Like, I mean,
True.
isn't there better places to to stake a claim and to put a flag in the dirt and say this is mine?
Well, is it also a possibility that
I mean,
God allows this to happen in order to get a bigger response later?
but
Um,
God wanted us to live at peace with each other.
he does. But what I'm saying is that why does he allow things not to be so why do we allow things to be unpeaceful? Because at the end there's a result at the end.
Hmm.
We don't know right now. Israel looks at themselves above certain people anyway. A lot of things got to people have to
Yep.
be. He did
Yeah.
it. He did it in the wilderness. He humbled them people in the wilderness. He had to humble you. Then as soon as you become unhumbled, he puts you into some type of bondage. He unhumble you become humble again. Become unhumble. He puts you in some type of bondage.
But the problem is that we don't understand when it's time to be humbled.
We don't.
We
Ego.
think that if something happens to us, that we're still entitled, that we don't sit back and reflect and say, maybe we are, uh, maybe we're to blame at least a little bit for our own situation, and say
Yeah.
to ourselves, maybe we need to reflect on this and to be humbled before we strike back and react to something.
That's
So
the
I
same
think that
way.
I
Go
think
ahead.
public opinion in this case is going to sway it eventually, maybe in the other direction where we see an anti-Israeli um, reaction. There was protests in New York City about this week.
Yeah.
New York City that has a large Jewish population, by the way. Statistically, I guess they have more Jewish people in New York City than outside of Israel than any place in the world, which is interesting. It makes sense. There's 9 million people in the metro area of New York City, so that makes sense. But there was a pro-Palestinian. There was more Palestinian folks in support of the Palestinians there than there was Israeli folks there.
Yeah.
So interesting to see some of the dialogue change, some of the perspectives change. Interesting that we're seeing a little bit in the shift in the dialogue and what people support and what side that
Yeah.
they support. And I think that's eventually could make the difference. Although there is this big thing about being the people lean on the Bible and they say that this should be Israelis' land. So
Yeah, because I was watching, they say the clashes and tension between Israel and Palestine flared up after the Al Aqsa Mosque was incident. So after that
yeah,
was
okay.
so that's what they're saying. But why did it? What happened? Let's see. The Israeli police attacked worshippers at the mosque. What was that about? That's what I
I'm
don't
not sure. I think
understand.
they were rounding up suspects, I think.
You know, so I mean that mentality where we're just talking about how, when you realize to humble yourself. That's how I feel about the United States. I feel
Yes,
that same exact
definitely,
way.
definitely.
So what you see going on in the
We don't
Gaza Strip is the same thing happening here, but in a different way. And it's
we
like,
we don't we have been resistant to humble ourselves when something happens to us, like coronavirus or whatever. It's like, well,
yeah,
um, we won't step back and say, can we do something different? Can we do something better? Can we prevent this in the future? We don't say, is this our fault? Um, is this our fault? We want to blame China. We want to say, well, it's China's fault.
yeah,
Some of us wanted to blame China and say, well, this is all China's fault. Say, well, wait a minute. We could have prevented it as soon as it came here. If we cracked down on it immediately, we could have not spread
yeah.
to hundreds of thousands of people, and we could have been okay. But since we were um, not looking at ourselves, we were looking at other people and blaming them. We have to own what is our responsibility, and
Yeah.
we've been unwilling, collectively speaking, to do that. This
I
is
think
what
no, well,
this
go
is
back,
what
go
the
back,
verse in the Bible
wait,
says
go back there for one
when
second.
it's like our crows have come back to roost.
Yeah,
When that verse in the Old Testament has been used, and people criticize it every time it's been used in regards to the United States, because it's like, well, the United States hasn't done anything wrong ever in its history, right? So like when we say that our the roosters have come back to roost or whatever it is, is it
yeah.
crows or
Crows come
roosters?
back to roost. Yeah,
The crows. Okay. Well, that's true. It's karma. I mean,
hmm
this is eh, this is the truth of the world. Things come back around eventually.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, no. I was going to go back to what you were saying, and now I lost it. You made me lose it.
Sorry. Sorry.
What did you say before you mentioned the scripture part? You were. I wanted to stuck. I wanted you to go back at before that. What did you mention before that?
We are unwilling to admit our own faults and when we are to blame for something. We're unwilling to take responsibility when something um,
Oh,
when
we're
we could have
talking
done
about
something better.
we were talking about the coronavirus.
I'm reaching here. Yeah.
No, you're talking about the coronavirus. Um, they say we're blaming, China, blaming these other countries. And think about that though, as America has always stood behind the bottom line, which is the dollar. Um, the dollar has been the reason why the money factor was why we was impacted, in my opinion, by coronavirus. America does a lot of business in China.
hmm
America does a lot of business in Europe.
hmm
We waited to the last minute to take action, and by then it was too late because of money.
Yep.
I watched it in too many corporate America countries where they had people in these, like in China. They were there, they quarantined them in China, but then when it got too late, they said, we're going to shut down. They got to come, they let these people come back. in my opinion, I feel that if the pandemic was that bad, why they allow so many Americans who lived in other countries come back here? Did they come back here just because they were Americans, or what was it about? That doesn't make sense to me. Even
Huh.
if it's your own people, and there has the potential of infecting our whole country. Our country's numbers didn't explode until after that deadline, and all the people came in. They came through LaGuardia and O'Hare airports in Chicago and New York. That's where they
Yes.
landed. They weren't vetted properly. They weren't checked. They weren't tested or anything.
No.
That's when our numbers blew up. They all came from where the infection started. When it started in China, they moved to Europe. And we didn't make we said, come on back home. It's your deadline. That didn't make sense to me. But the same people won't allow you in your own home. You know, you bring a neighbor by your house and you're not vaccinated, but they're gonna say, you can't come in my house. You know what I'm saying? If we knew that here, why didn't the government know that as a country? They were already living in these other countries. They had a home in these other countries. But because they were Americans, they said, come on back. And the thing about it though, don't want to make race a factor all the time. But what was the demographic of the people that had to come back? I'm asking the question.
It's rhetorical.
I know, but it's like, but you see what I'm saying? That
Yes.
was the factor. If it when it was a issue of AIDS in Africa, they stopped people from coming here. If you was from Africa, were you from the America? If you was from the United States, you couldn't even come back. If you was,
Yep.
during the AIDS, not even AIDS. It was what was the other one? It was another one. Was it the
Ebola.
Ebola? They was like,
Ebola.
stop! Where you coming from?
Yep.
It didn't matter if you was an American or
Didn't
not.
matter. Yeah.
So
So, I mean, we want to give deference. We want to at least comment 1619 project. We should have a focus on that. Maybe we could have a guest come on, maybe
yeah, we've
Darren,
been
if you want
saying
to
that.
come on and talk about that, to talk specifically about 1619 project, because
Yeah.
um, you mentioned it a few times here today. Yeah, it's interesting. We should have a race forum. We end up talking about race. Why not? Why not own up to it? Why not just do it and go for it? We could
Yeah.
talk about critical race theory. We could talk about the 1619 project. We could talk about why it's important, why we think it's important, why we might not think it's that important. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about
Yeah.
it.
Again, it goes back to, do you really want to talk about something that's so harmful and hurtful? But the fact is that it's still harmful and hurtful. And we can no longer keep looking
Yeah.
past it. So man, we're past our time. It's
We're past our
2:07.
time. We want to
2
get
hours and 7 minutes past our, we're
yeah.
we're over 2 hours. But what's your bottom line, man?
My bottom line is to pray. I don't usually play the religion card, but in this case, I want to, because of the things that are going on overseas that have been very troubling. You know it's bad when you see all these videos in your news feed about that give the 5-second intro. This video may contain disturbing images,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's a police um, arresting somebody who's jaywalking, uh, grabbing them off their bike, throwing them down to the ground,
Right.
whether it's people being cremated in India because they have no more room in mortuaries, excuse me, my mouth is dry. Whether it's rockets being thrown at each other, and children being taken to the hospital in the Middle East. Um, America's still a land of blessings, and we need to be thankful and realize our blessings, that we are fortunate and we are blessed. And that's that's humility in itself. We talked about humility, um, being humbled, to realize that we are blessed. We may have problems, even with coronavirus and how we've been hit hard with that. Um, we're still a blessed land. We're still a blessed country. Um, and we just to be cognizant of the fact we might not even have to send money overseas or anything like that. Just to be cognizant about what goes on, to be mindful, and to pray for those people. I really feel for those people in India. That looks awful. Looks
It does.
terrible.
It's
It
bad.
looks you know it looks like the end of the world. People just in the streets, dead.
Yeah.
It's just awful. So
Yeah, it's sad, man. It's sad. And I think we gave some aid last week. Then we sent some helicopters or some planes. It was some planes that went over there with some aid.
yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like, wow, what's going on? You know. And then I hear that the Indian government over in India, they were some of the reasons why all this stuff escalated like it did.
Yeah, their policies have been suspect in some cases. They've allowed mass gatherings of at the Ganges River pilgrimages with hundreds of thousands of people, and they're not wearing masks or
Mm,
distancing. I mean, it's a very crowded country,
yeah.
and access to vaccine is not not there for them. So it's a problem. It's a huge problem.
Hmm. Sad. Yeah,
Bottom
man.
line, what's
So
yours?
bottom line is that I think that we need to sit back and look at things from the outside instead of always looking at it from the inside, looking out.
Hmm,
Step outside and look at every situation and also put yourself in that situation or your family in that situation. It could be without, regardless of whatever it is. You know, you could put yourself in a situation of being on Israel's side or the Palestinian side.
yeah.
Put yourself in a situation of the young man at the Dunkin' Donuts or the old guy with the racial slurs. What could you have done differently? We've all had situations where we didn't like something or somebody or thought negative thoughts about someone in our mind,
Mm,
but some of us had the discipline not to go speak out on those negative thoughts, you know, out loud, you know. And so we have to step outside of ourselves before we even take a side. People want to take sides so quickly to something,
mm,
and
mm.
I always give that's why we argue sometime or debate on here because I'll purposely get on the opposite side, even when I agree with you, to give you a different perspective. No, because you want to be able to say, okay, what if this happens? And one of the prime examples that when you were talking about the person with a Trump sign here after the election was over, you're like, why you still got your sign up? Take it down. And I'm like, I agree with you. Take the dang old sign down. But on the other side, I'm like, that person has a right to put that sign in their yard. I have to do that. When I say that to you, saying it to myself because I have to step outside and look at it from a different perspective.
That's good to know.
You know, I have to do that um, because your reactions may cause a bad reaction because some things aren't necessary for us to speak on. It was one
Hmm,
time my wife, we're in the car driving, right? And this was during the time of the insurrection. And she's in the car, and this driver was totally wrong. Who
hmm,
either I can't remember exactly what the driver did.
hmm.
And the driver got beside us and she put her hands up like, with this expression. And I said, stop it. Put your hands down and look straight ahead. And she's like, what? What? I said, you don't know what that guy's mindset is like. You don't know if that guy would try to run us off the road. You don't know if that guy will pull a pistol out and shoot right through the window at you. You have no idea. Sometimes our reactions aren't necessary because of the reaction that might come from it, you know? And so I have to think that way now and try to, I speak a lot on social media and on these airways. And that's why I always give the conversation a chance.
Okay.
I had somebody, I posted something recently and then somebody made a negative comment about my post.
Hmm.
And one of my friends came and inboxed me and said, Lamar, he said, why do you tolerate these people? Why don't you ever cuss these, and he used the word MF, cuss these people out?
Wow.
And I said, because soon as they make their first statement or comment, I know where they're coming from. There's no need for me to get upset. I
Hmm.
have the upper hand already because
Yeah.
their comment already told me where they're at. So I just drag them along until they get tired and they give up. Or they get mad and they just cut off the
You have a
conversation.
lot of patience
I have
for
patience.
that, and you have a gift for that.
And so what happens is that, and I've told you before, these people inbox me later, or they'll call me and we'll have a conversation. Because see, they can't have the sensible conversation on social media because they got a image to uphold. But
Hmm.
on a one-on-one conversation, it's just me and that person.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
gets real. So
Okay.
step out the box, look at things from the outside looking in, and hopefully it'll change your perspective, everyone's perspective on things. That's how I do it. I try to do it. I don't take a lot of I don't pat myself on the back with it. I just say I'm just trying to make a difference and opening up conversations that people are scared to talk about.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
that's my bottom line, man. That was kind of long winded on that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But
It's okay.
so
You
I'm
got
about to
it.
get
You
out
got
of
it.
here, man. Go jump in the shower, man. And I got this back massage I'm about to get to loosen up these muscles in my neck and my back, man. I can't wait. Because
Good luck. Good
I've
luck
been
with that.
struggling. I've been
I need to
struggling.
do some yard work. It's a nice day here.
Yeah.
That means I need to get outside and get to the lawn.
Yeah, I did mine last night, man. That's why I'm hurting now. Take care, man. I'll see you
Anyways,
later. Have a
goodbye,
good one.
everyone. Thank you for the support of the
Take
show,
care.
and like it, subscribe to us, share it with a friend.
And here's our outro.